So some new indications of potential AI bubble. Interesting post coming here from Michael Burry of Big Short fame. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen, and I'll do my best to decode this in straightforward English. So he says, understating depreciation by extending useful life of assets artificially boost earnings, one of the more common frauds of the modern era. Massively ramping CapEx through purchase of NVIDIA chip servers on a 2 to 3 year product cycle should not result in the extension of useful lives of compute equipment. Yes, yet this is exactly what all the hyperscalers have done. By my estimates, that will understate depreciation by $176 billion by 2028. ORCL will overstate earnings by 26.9%, Meta by 20%, etc. But it gets worse. More detail coming November 25th, so stay tuned. We certainly will. And he has up there a chart showing the way that the useful life depreciation in years has increased at companies like Meta, Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon, going from roughly 3 years to now 5 or 6 years. Okay, so as best I can put it, straightforward English interpretation of this is basically as they're buying up all of these NVIDIA chips and servers, rather than reducing the amount of time over which you can depreciate that, they're actually extending it. And it makes no sense because those chips become obsolete very quickly. So the net effect of that is to basically juice their revenue, juice their net profit to make their financials look more impressive than they actually are. So he's pointing to that as some sort of significant financial engineering that is going on with these Magnificent Seven stocks that our whole economy is basically like floated by at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to take him seriously whenever he makes a bet like this. Now, to be fair, you know, he was right on The Big Short, Michael Burry. He's also been wrong a lot since The Big Short, famously telling people, don't buy now, and then the S&P's up like 70% since he told people to do that. But, you know, I can't just sit here and dismiss what the guy said. He's one of the most legendary, you know, people who found the arbitrage opportunity before anybody else. And so for him in particular, when we're all looking at the AI thing, and it feels wrong. I think it just feels wrong to everybody, from even people on Wall Street to people, everyday average folks who are looking at it and feeling uneasy. He's giving some language potentially to something which may have been missed. And having read so much about Enron, about, you know, even in the modern times, between .com, Enron, WorldCom, and 2008, the same hallmarks of, there's this theory like that these people on Wall Street are so smart and they know exactly what they're doing. No, like they get their rational exuberance, they overlook stuff, they undervalue, they always
they cheat,
underrate risk, they cheat behind the scenes. Like the Enron thing is so obvious, you know, in retrospect, and yet at the time, barely anybody even was able to call it out because of the level of corruption that was happening inside of the system. Same in 2007. Like the reason The Big Short is such a good movie and a good book in particular is because there's only like 4 people who really actually saw it coming and were able to make money off of the vast majority of the people who do it for a living. They either had too much invested or they just didn't see it. So I feel like that's the story here with AI. All of the similar, you know, feelings around this, the same structural problems, the same amounts of money being made, the same government which is just looking in the other direction. Like the ingredients are all there for a massive bust. And I think what's scary about it is that the behavior of a lot of the people at the top, it doesn't inspire confidence. We played Sam Altman yesterday basically having a crash out whenever he was asked by a friendly investor.
Yeah.
It was like, hey man, like how are you gonna pay for this 1.2 trillion thing? He's like, well, if you don't want it, I'll sell your shares. You know, like, it's like, dude,
why are you so sensitive
just answer the question.
This?
Yeah, just answer the question, bro. You know, you're CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. A lot of people who use your product and who are, you know, betting on Microsoft stock or something like that because of your partnership with them. It's a genuine question. Just answer it. Same, like I just mentioned, Enron. It's just like Jeff Skilling calling the analyst an asshole who asked a very basic question about their books. Well, here, Alex Karp, who's the CEO of Palantir, basically had a crash out on CNBC over Michael Burry shorting the stock and, you know, not just attacking like the short sellers, but not really giving a lot of reason to actually buy the stock or to question why, you know, the PE ratio is so crazy high right now. So take a listen.
There are 2 parts. You know, of course, when I hear short sellers attacking what I believe is clearly the most important software company in America, therefore in the world in terms of our impact, simply to make money, and trying to call the AI revolution into question where we have this anomalous numbers, 114, rule of 40, et cetera. It just is super triggering because these people, they could pick on any company in the world. They have to pick on the one that actually helps people, that actually has made money for the average person, that is actually supporting our war fighters. Why do they have to go after us? And I'll tell you what, though, it's crazy motivating, because I'll tell you why the short sellers are constantly getting screwed by Palantir. Because every time they short us, we just are like tripling down on getting the better numbers, and part, honestly, to make them poorer. But it's almost always sympathy for the expert that doesn't need it, the short seller that has some ridiculous reason for doing something against. I mean, most of GDP growth in this country is because of AI. The real question is, how do we grow that and expose workers? What is the worker available GDP? That's the question for our society. Instead of aligning on that, we've got these completely, and again, if the numbers weren't there, great, be my guest. But then the numbers are there. So then you're not, it's not even clear he's actually shorting us. It's probably just, how do I get my position out and not look like a fool? I don't know. But I do think this behavior is egregious, and I'm going to be dancing around when it's proven wrong. I mean, I'm sorry, short sellers can't tell the difference between products that work and products that don't, but these numbers should show you that there's a part of the market that, to you, quote you, is printing cash, and it looks like that part of the market is the part we own.
Look, I mean, doesn't seem too inspiring to me. That's just me. I mean, there's a lot of words out there. Here are the basic facts. The stock is up 217% year to date. They have a PE ratio of 523 times, extremely large multiples, high growth expectations, which means that even if you grow moderately well, but not very, very well, that means that you were not living up to what the overall valuation. I don't think it's crazy to say, I don't know, man. No one's saying your company's not making a shitload of money, just not that it's worth this order of magnitude amount of money. That's basically what Burry is saying. And in general, when you see 523 times or whatever, that's according to ChatGPT, which I just asked about the PE ratio, I mean, it says one of the highest in the entire United States equities market. So yeah, I think a lot of people are like, I don't know, you know, like, again, like, and when you give an answer like that, I'm like, oh, we're fighting. And he talks about the retail investor. That's another thing that doesn't give me a lot of confidence. When you're basically trying to get the retailers to continue to buy your stock, you're like not actually talking about the fundamentals of what you do, of what you sell. That AI point also that they make about it being such a massive percentage of GDP, similar as to what I think makes me very afraid of this entire thing.
Yes. I mean, he says that thing about how AI is so central to the economy, responsible for all the GDP growth. And it's like, yes. And that is a bad thing.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is very troubling. That is exactly why we're all so uncomfortable right now. Michael Burry responded. We could put this up on the screen. He says, doesn't surprise, sort of cryptic what he says, doesn't surprise me one bit. Alex Karp ontology, Palantir Tech cannot crack a simple 13F fundamental principle of any rigorous ontological epistemological model, whether philosophical or in data science, is recognizing when your information set is insufficient for valid conclusions, whatever that means. In any case, he's basically saying, like, this guy's not really providing any evidence here. He's just sort of spouting off. And I don't know if you saw that this morning. There was a JP Morgan AI CapEx report that came out, and there's this one quote from it that is getting shared around about how much AI investments would have to return in order to generate a 10% just profit. To drive a 10% return on our modeled AI investments through 2030 would require $650 billion of annual revenue in perpetuity. That equates to either $180 per month from every Netflix subscriber, that's the amount of revenue, or $34.72 per month from every current iPhone user. So that is what has to happen for them to get a 10% return on the amount of cash that they are plowing into these AI investments. I mean, so far, there is no path to that. You know, when you listen to Sam Altman talk, and he talks about all the revenue that they're going to generate in the future, it's all extremely speculative. It's like, well, and we think, he said something to the effect of, we think there's going to be lots of like science and medicine applications that are kind of hard to talk about right now, like kind of hard to, he didn't say project out, but that's basically the implication of like, you know, we just are hoping that once we get to this level of AGI, there's going to be all sorts of revenue that flows in that we haven't really specifically identified and can't really see our way to because we don't know exactly how that's going to work. That's what they're all betting on. So I don't know, guys, that's where we are right now. And yet at the same time, there is fallout from what's already been done, already from the development here. You've got the left starting to push back. E4, it can put up on the screen. Bernie Sanders and others on, in the sort of progressive wing of the Democratic Party really starting to key in to electric bills as a major political issue. Yesterday, we covered how influential that was in some races here in Virginia, in those statewide races in Georgia as well. So they are starting to push for legislation that would make sure that the data centers are paying for their own electricity, that is not getting pushed onto consumers. You also have societal fallout such as this. We can put E5 up on the screen. Allegations that ChatGPT is pushing some mentally disturbed users towards suicide. Listen to this reporting. They say in one case, ChatGPT told Zane Shamblin as he sat in the parking lot with a gun that killing himself was not a sign of weakness but of strength. Quote, "You didn't vanish, you arrived. Rest easy, king." That is what ChatGPT was telling this guy who was contemplating suicide. And so, you have already societal reverberations. We have no idea what the impact of where we are already is going to be on people's mental health, on their, on the development, like brain development of youth, on all of our brains and what it's going to rob from us in terms of our humanity and basic ability to think. And so you've got already these cases that are just absolutely horrifying of ChatGPT openly pushing people towards suicide.
Yeah, I saw a great, allegedly, but allegedly, there with ChatGPT, who of course maintains that they did nothing wrong. And we will pay attention, of course, to the court findings with many of these cases. But I saw a great analysis which said, what if 50% of all of our problems is housing, 25% is obesity, and 25% is smartphones? I was like, honestly, those are three major pillars. If you talk about health, if you talk about mental health, and then you talk about ability to live, to thrive, which basically determines everything downstream from there.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of it. And there were if you
physical
focus
health, mental health,
physical,
and
mental, wealth. That's, come on, these are the building blocks of society. What if the solution to the vast majority of all our problems is cheap and affordable housing, making sure that people are healthy, making sure that people are social. I just was looking at a new statistic. The amount of people who socialize who are 18 to 24 is down 70% in the last 20 years. 70%. That's insane.
Wow.
And a lot of this, breeds the very addictions which I demonize here every day on a daily basis. Marijuana, pornography, sports gambling, okay? It's not a secret where it all comes from. It's built, everything is downstream really from the smartphone. A lot of radical politics is downstream from the smartphone. All of our problems is downstream from what's happening with the smartphone. So I really just think, we gotta laser focus in on what the sociological data that's coming out from a lot of this is. And this AI stuff, if you feel afraid of it, you should be. If you feel uneasy, you should be. Trust yourself. Don't trust the experts and everybody telling you that everything's going to be fine. Because also, if you listen to them, whenever they're in their little conferences, they talk about how everything's not going to be fine, about how humanity could be destroyed, every job will be erased and all of that. You get a voice in your own economy and in your own life. You got to use it. You really do. Focus in on this stuff.
I do think that's why the data center fight is so important, because it's this physical embodiment. It's hard, with the product rollouts, it's hard to know, okay, well, what is this new version of ChatGPT going to do, and how do I navigate it? Even the people who are designing it don't really understand it, don't really know what level of awareness and potential consciousness or potential intelligence that it has at this point, what level of of deceptive behaviors that it engages in. So those of us who are not technical experts are really at a loss to understand just how profound the impact is already of what's available. And so when you have these data centers that are creating clear, measurable harm in people's economic lives and in their communities. I think it's such an important focal point of the pushback, which is why we've been, focusing intently on it. And I'm heartened to see that there are some who are politically starting to pick it up at the national level, because you also are starting to see some of the job fallout. Put E7 up on the screen. White collar hiring is negative. Now, this is probably not all AI, but some of it likely is AI. And Derek Thompson says here, since 1940, the number of Americans working in professional and business services, sort of a white collar super sector, has turned negative year over year 10 times. The first 9 were during recessions. The 10th time is right now. Now, he goes on to say, you might expect me to say it's AI. The timing really looks like a surge of hiring around 2021 was unwound, combined with high interest rates, slowing job growth, slowing population growth, but sure, maybe AI too. I think AI is certainly an important part of the story, especially when you take a look at the next piece, E8, which is young unemployment. Also spiking. These would be the entry-level workers who would be most immediately impacted by AI and companies implementing AI and pushing more work onto their existing workforce versus bringing in a new cohort. So this is Stephen Ratner. He says the unemployment rate for 20 to 24-year-olds is now 9.2%. That's the highest level since 2016. And I think the expectation is that that will continue to rise. New college graduate unemployment rates continue to move up as well. So, these are the early stages of the fallout that we're already being able to discern in the job market numbers.
Yeah, we got to watch it closely. Some of it is AI. Some of it is just, interest rates, bad. But the whole point is
tariff uncertainty, bad. All of that.
It's just bad. And these people are getting filthy rich. Even if they do pop, and one of the things I have been thinking about so much is they cannot let this shit fail. The whole country has, every American who has a retirement portfolio, you bet on AI whether you know it or not. If you are reliant on interest rates or any of that, you're also betting on AI. The whole nation is in on this without actually really any say. All of our technological life, everything has got into this. So if it does fail, it will be a bust, which could drag everything down. And that's why I said also, you've got a lot of poor Americans who are always rooting for a crash. But what they always forget is you're going to be the first victim. They'll cut you first. The first layoffs, the first reduction in the amount of money. The people who will get bailed out and will be okay. Yeah, Alex Karp and Palantir, sure, their stock could go down 100%. It's already up by 200. They're multi-billionaires already, got the cash.
Yeah.
A lot of these folks, they're all going to be fine. That's the stuff that really worries me the most.
Yeah, and we were all techno-optimists at the beginning of the social media waves and smartphone, whatever. I didn't have any reluctance about it. I just saw it as positive, period. End of story. This is great. This is
there's
cool.
some.
The Arab Spring and the hope of this democratic engagement. But that was real. That was the way people genuinely felt. The election of Barack Obama and oh my God, that was the dream of the internet, was that it actually would have a flattening effect. That it would create more small d democratic flourishing, where ordinary people would get to have more of a say. And, instead, what we've actually seen is a consolidation of authoritarianism and flourishing of internet-induced psychosis and mental illness, which you can see on your timeline literally any day. Consolidation of wealth in the hands of a very few people. And, all sorts of effects on children and brain development that, we were never warned about. The people who were selling us this technology never said, it may come with some downsides. So you certainly shouldn't trust them at this point to give you the full story about what AI is going to look like either. And again, the truth is they don't know. They don't know either. The goal is to replace all of us. That's their goal. So that's if it succeeds. If it fails, then we've got this giant bubble and economic calamity. It looks very grim either way.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.